The billionaire doctor who rejected all until her. The snow fell hard in Seoul that night. The city lights sparkled, but the streets were quiet. Most people hurried home, wrapping themselves in coats and scarves. Dr. Miho stepped out of the hospital doors. He had been working for 16 hours straight. His face looked tired, but his eyes were still sharp. Everyone in the hospital knew him, the billionaire doctor who owned the private clinic that saved thousands of lives. But he was also the man no woman could win. Many tried. Rich daughters, beautiful models, even doctors from famous families. But Miho always said the same thing. I don't have time for love. To him, love was weak. Money, power, and medicine were all that mattered. He pulled on his gloves and headed toward his black car parked across the street. Snow crunched under his shoes. Then he stopped. A body lay on the ground. At first, he thought it was just another drunk person. People often fainted in the cold after drinking too much. He almost walked away. But then the streetlight hit her face. It was a young black woman. Her lips were pale, her body shaking. She wore a thin jacket that was not strong enough for the freezing air. Her eyes were closed, and her breath came out weak. Miho frowned. He hated trouble. But something made him step closer. Something in her fragile body reminded him of a patient he had once lost. He knelt beside her and touched her wrist. Her pulse was weak. Tisk, he muttered. If I leave her here, she will die. For the first time in years, Miho's heart moved. He lifted her in his arms. She felt so light, almost like snow itself. Without thinking, he carried her back into the hospital he had just left. Maria woke up slowly. The white ceiling above her looked strange. She blinked, trying to remember what happened. Then it hit her. The snow, the cold, her body falling. She sat up too quickly and almost fell again. That's when she saw him. A tall man in a white coat stood near the window. His black hair fell neatly across his forehead, and his face looked like it was carved from stone. His eyes were sharp, cold, unreadable. You fainted, he said without looking at her. His voice was low, steady. Maria swallowed. Where am I? My hospital, he replied. You were lucky I found you. She shivered. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry for the trouble. You should be, Miho said. Do you know you could have died out there? Maria lowered her head. She didn't want to cry, but her chest hurt. Life in Korea had been so hard. She worked 2 part-time jobs just to pay her school fees. Sometimes she skipped meals to save money. That night, she had been walking back from work when the snow became too heavy and her body gave up. She whispered, I didn't mean to cause trouble. Miho finally turned his eyes on her. For a moment, he saw something he never expected, strength hiding inside weakness. Her hands were rough from work, but her eyes were clear, honest. You need to rest, he said finally. I'll send someone with your bill in the morning. Maria's heart dropped. Bill? She had no money, not even enough to pay for the medicine she probably received. She bit her lip. She couldn't cry. She couldn't beg. That would only make him look down on her more. When Miho left the room, Maria knew one thing. Her real battle was just beginning. The next morning, Maria woke up to the sound of footsteps. A nurse walked in, holding a clipboard. Miss, here is your bill, she said politely. Maria's eyes widened when she saw the number. It was more than her entire tuition fee. She felt her chest tighten. How could she ever pay this? The nurse gave her a sad smile, as if she already knew the answer. You should speak to Dr. Miho. Maria swallowed hard. She got up slowly, her legs still weak. She followed the nurse down the shiny halls until they reached a large office. Inside, Miho was writing something at his desk. He didn't look up when she entered. You're awake. Yes, sir, Maria whispered. Thank you for saving me. You should take better care of yourself, he said coldly. You nearly froze to death. Maria held the paper with shaking hands. Sir, about the bill. I can't pay it. Miho finally looked at her. His eyes were sharp, almost piercing. Everyone pays. This is not a charity. Her throat tightened. She could either beg or walk away. But something in her heart told her not to lose her pride. I'm not asking for pity, she said softly. If you let me, I'll work to pay it off. Any job. Cleaning, helping in the clinic, anything. Miho leaned back in his chair. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Most people either cried or begged. But this girl, she stood with dignity, even while broke. "You'll work?" he asked, testing her. "Yes," Maria said firmly. "I don't like debts. If you saved me, I'll pay you back with my hands." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, to his own surprise, Miho said, "Fine. You can start today." Maria's eyes widened. She bowed deeply. "Thank you, sir." As she left the office, Miho stared after her. Something strange moved in his chest. Why did he feel like this girl, this fragile stranger, was about to disturb the perfect world he had built? Maria's first day at the clinic was not easy. The other nurses whispered when she walked in. Some looked at her with curiosity, others with judgment. She could hear them murmur. "Who is she? Why is Dr. Miho letting her work here? She doesn't look like she belongs." Maria ignored them. She had faced worse before. She rolled up her sleeves and began cleaning the equipment, arranging files, and helping patients fill out forms. Everywhere she turned, she saw Miho watching silently. His eyes followed her, not in a romantic way, but like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. At lunch, one of the nurses, Hannah, cornered her. "You're not a nurse. Why are you here?" Maria smiled gently. "I'm just helping to pay my debt." Hannah crossed her arms. "You'll never fit here. People like you don't last." Maria's heart hurt, but she didn't reply. She had no time for fights. Later that evening, when the clinic was quiet, Maria saw Miho talking to a group of investors. His voice was calm, confident, powerful. The men shook his hand with respect. He looked like a man untouchable, like a king. But when their eyes met across the room, Maria felt something strange. For the first time, his cold gaze seemed to soften just a little. That night, as she walked back to her small rented room, Maria whispered to herself, "I will survive, no matter what." What she didn't know was that this was only the beginning of a story bigger than both of them. The next few weeks were hard on Maria. She worked in the clinic every day after her classes, sometimes late into the night. She cleaned, sorted files, and even helped patients find their way around. It wasn't glamorous, but she did it with pride. Most of the staff still looked down on her. They saw her as an outsider, poor, foreign, and unworthy of working in such a high-class clinic. But Maria never let their whispers break her spirit. Miho, however, watched everything. He noticed how she bowed politely to rude patients, how she smiled even when her hands were tired, how she never once complained. One evening, Miho was finishing up his shift when he saw Maria carrying a heavy box of supplies. The box slipped and bottles crashed to the floor. The noise echoed through the hallway. Everyone turned. "Be careful," Hannah snapped. "You don't belong here. You'll only make mistakes." Maria's cheeks burned, but she bent down to clean the mess. Before she could say anything, Miho's voice cut through the hall. "Enough." Everyone froze. Miho rarely interfered with staff matters. "She's working harder than any of you," he said coldly. His eyes swept the room, silencing every whisper. "If anyone has a problem with her, they can leave." The nurses looked shocked. Hannah bit her lip and stayed silent. Maria's hands trembled as she picked up the bottles. She wanted to thank him, but when she glanced at him, his face was as cold as ever. Still, in her heart, she felt a small warmth. One snowy night, Maria left the clinic late. The streets were slippery, the wind sharp against her skin. She wrapped her thin scarf tighter and hurried down the road. Suddenly, a car sped around the corner. Its headlights flashed, blinding her. Maria froze. Before she could move, a strong hand pulled her back. She fell against a solid chest, her breath rushing out in shock. It was Miho. He had been walking to his car when he saw her in danger. His hand still gripped her arm tightly, his face pale with anger. "Are you trying to die again?" he snapped. Maria's heart pounded. I didn't see the car." "You never see anything," he muttered. But his hand didn't let go. For a moment, his cold eyes looked different, worried. Maria's chest tightened. Why would a man like him, who cared for no one, look at her like that? When he finally let go, She felt the ghost of his warmth stay on her skin. The next day, rumors spread fast. Did you hear? Dr. Miho saved her life. Why does he care about that girl? Maybe she's trying to trap him. Maria heard every word. She wanted to ignore it, but it stung. She didn't want anyone to think she was using Miho. That evening, she gathered her courage and walked into his office. "Sir," she said softly. He didn't look up from his papers. "What now?" "I just want to say, thank you. Not only for saving me, but for letting me work here." She lowered her head. "But please don't protect me anymore. It will only make people hate me more." For the first time, Miho set his pen down. His eyes met hers, sharp and unreadable. "You think I care what people say?" Maria's breath caught. "I just don't want to be a burden." Something flickered in his eyes, something he didn't want to admit. "You're not a burden." Maria froze. The words were simple, but they sank deep into her heart. She bowed quickly and left before he could see the tears in her eyes. Behind his desk, Miho sat still. His own chest felt heavy. Why was this girl affecting him so much? The days turned into weeks, and something subtle began to change. At first, Miho only watched Maria out of habit. She was unusual, different from the people around him. But soon, he realized his eyes searched for her even when he didn't mean to. When she passed him in the hallway with a stack of files, his gaze followed. When she smiled at a patient, his chest tightened. And when she laughed, a soft, warm laugh that seemed too rare in his cold world, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. It bothered him. He told himself it was nothing. Just curiosity. Just interested in a hardworking employee. But late at night, when he sat in his empty penthouse overlooking Seoul, he caught himself remembering the way she tucked loose curls behind her ear or how her eyes sparkled when she spoke about her studies. He shook his head. Love was a distraction. He didn't need it. Yet he couldn't escape the way Maria was slowly melting his walls. For Maria, things were not easier. She told herself Miho was just her boss. A cold, untouchable man who lived in a world far above hers. She reminded herself daily that she had no place in his life. And yet, she noticed everything. The way his hands moved when he performed surgery, steady, precise, yet gentle. The way his brow furrowed when he read patient reports showing a man who carried more than he admitted. The way his voice softened, just a little, when he spoke to children in the pediatric ward. Sometimes, she caught him staring at her, but when their eyes met, he looked away quickly. Her heart beat faster every time. But she fought it. She couldn't afford feelings. Her life was already too hard, too complicated. Still, no matter how much she tried, she couldn't stop her chest from warming whenever she thought about him. One evening, the clinic was quieter than usual. Maria stayed behind to finish cleaning the supply room. She hummed softly, a song her mother used to sing. She didn't know Miho was passing by. He stopped at the door, frozen by the sound. The melody was foreign but beautiful, gentle yet filled with emotion. It reminded him of something he didn't even know he missed: warmth, home, love. He leaned against the wall and listened for a moment longer. Then, before she could notice him, he walked away, his heart strangely unsettled. That night, Maria dreamed of snow and warm eyes watching her in silence. That night, Miho sat in his office, staring at a patient file, but hearing only her soft song echoing in his mind. Neither of them said it. Neither of them dared admit it. But something was growing between them, fragile yet powerful. Something even Miho, the man who rejected all, could not stop. The snow outside was heavier that week, but inside the clinic, something else weighed on Miho's heart. He tried to ignore it. He tried to bury himself in surgeries, patient meetings, and endless reports. But no matter what he did, Maria's face kept appearing in his mind. Her laughter, her voice, her quiet strength. It irritated him. He was not a man easily distracted, and yet, one evening, Miho walked past the small break room and stopped when he saw her inside. She sat at the table, her books spread open, a pen in her hand. Her eyes looked tired, but determined. She was studying after a long day of work. He stood at the doorway for a long moment, then finally stepped inside. "You're still here," he said. Maria looked up, startled. "Oh, Dr. Miho. Yes, I have exams coming up. I need to keep up." "You work all day," he said. "And then you study? When do you rest?" Maria smiled faintly. "When I succeed." Miho stared at her. The words hit him harder than he expected. So simple, yet so powerful. Something inside him cracked. "You're different," he muttered, almost to himself. Maria blinked. "Different." He looked away quickly. "Forget it." But the word hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Over the next few days, Miho found himself slipping. Small things he never did before. He brought her a coffee once, leaving it on her desk without a word. He scolded a nurse too harshly when they mocked her. He even asked her one morning if she had eaten breakfast, shocking himself more than her. Maria noticed every change. Her heart raced each time, but she didn't dare hope. One night, as they both left the clinic, the street was quiet, covered in white snow. Their footsteps crunched softly. Maria hugged her jacket tighter. "Korea is so cold," she said with a soft laugh. Without thinking, Miho pulled off his scarf and wrapped it around her neck. Maria froze. Her heart leapt into her throat. "Sir, I can't." "Keep it," he said firmly. "You'll get sick again." She touched the scarf, warm and smelling faintly of him. Her eyes lifted to his, and for the first time, she saw something in them, something unguarded. Her chest fluttered. Miho opened his mouth as if to say more. His heart pounded in a way it never had before. But he stopped himself. Instead, he turned away, his voice low. "Go home safe." Maria stood there in the snow, her heart racing wildly. She didn't know it yet, but the walls around Miho's heart were beginning to crumble. And soon, the words he thought he would never say were already forming inside him. The night was quiet after another long day at the clinic. Most of the staff had gone home, leaving the halls empty. Only 2 people remained: Maria, who was finishing some records, and Miho, who sat in his office pretending to work, but failing miserably. For hours, he had been fighting the storm in his chest. His mind told him to stop, to keep his distance, to remember who he was: a billionaire doctor, untouchable, cold, respected. But his heart no longer listened. He stood up suddenly, unable to bear it anymore. His feet carried him down the hallway, straight to where Maria sat. She looked up when he entered, surprised. "Oh, Dr. Miho. I was just finishing these reports." "Leave them," he said quietly. His voice was different, softer than usual. Maria frowned slightly. "Is something wrong?" Miho walked closer. His hands clenched at his sides. He had faced hundreds of surgeries without fear, but now, standing in front of her, his chest pounded like he was the patient instead. "Maria," he said slowly, his voice deep and steady. "I've spent my whole life rejecting people, pushing them away. I thought I didn't need anyone. I thought love was a weakness." Maria's eyes widened. She froze, her heart thudding. "But since the night I found you in the snow," Miho continued, "I haven't been the same. You've been breaking down the walls I built around myself. And no matter how much I try, I can't stop thinking about you." The room felt too small, the silence too loud. Maria's breath caught. "Sir, I..." Miho took a step closer. His eyes, usually cold as ice, burned with something raw, something he had hidden all his life. "I don't know how to say this any other way," he whispered. "But, Maria, I think I'm falling for you." Her lips parted, but no words came. Her heart felt like it might burst. This was the man who rejected everyone. The man who claimed he would never love. And yet, here he was, standing in front of her, confessing what no one thought he was capable of. Maria's hands trembled. You can't mean that." "I do," Miho said firmly. "For years, I healed others, but never myself. Until you walked into my life." Maria felt tears sting her eyes. She didn't know what to say, but deep inside, she knew the truth: she had been falling for him too. And in that moment, standing in the empty clinic, something unspoken bound them together. The walls around his heart had finally shattered. Maria's hands shook as she clutched the pen she was holding. Her heart raced so fast she thought Miho might hear it. You're falling for me?" she whispered, almost afraid of her own words. Miho's gaze did not waver. "Yes." Her lips trembled. She wanted to laugh, to cry, to scream. How could this be real? The man who was untouchable, the man who rejected all, the man whose world was galaxies away from hers, and yet he was standing here, telling her this. "Sir," she began softly. I don't know what to say." "Say the truth," Miho said, his voice low but firm. "Do you feel something too?" Maria looked down, her chest aching. She thought of all the nights she had admired him quietly, all the moments when his eyes softened only for her, the warmth of his scarf around her neck, the sound of his footsteps when he pulled her out of danger. Her throat tightened. "Yes." Miho blinked, his breath catching. "Yes," Maria whispered again, tears filling her eyes. "I tried to fight it. I told myself it wasn't possible, that you were too far away from my world. But every day her voice broke. "Every day I feel it growing stronger." Miho's chest burned. For a moment, the man who never let emotions control him felt something bigger than pride, bigger than fear. Relief. He stepped closer, close enough to see the tears shining in her eyes. "Maria," he said softly, almost reverently. "You don't have to fight it anymore." Maria swallowed hard. "What will people say? I'm poor. I'm different. Your world is not mine." Miho's jaw tightened. "I don't care what they say. Let them talk. I choose you." And with those words, the air between them shifted. Something fragile, yet unbreakable, bloomed right there in the quiet clinic. The days that followed were different. Their bond was no longer hidden in stolen glances. It was quiet but real. Miho no longer pretended to be cold around her. He let small smiles slip when she entered the room. He asked about her studies, her family, and her dreams. Maria, in turn, felt her heart open. She told him about her life in Nigeria, about her mother's songs, about the weight of surviving alone in Korea. She laughed more freely when she was with him. She felt seen, truly seen, for the first time since she had arrived in the city. At the clinic, their bond was silent, spoken only through small actions. He brought her lunch when she forgot to eat. She reminded him to take breaks when he overworked himself. He defended her fiercely when colleagues doubted her. She soothed his temper when meetings left him frustrated. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't loud, but it was real. And with each passing day, Maria realized something that scared her and warmed her all at once. She wasn't just falling for him. She had already fallen. And Miho, the man who rejected every woman, knew deep in his heart that he had finally found the one he could never let go of. It didn't take long before people began to notice. The way Miho's eyes softened only when Maria was around. The way she walked beside him with quiet confidence, no longer just the poor student working off a debt. The silence between them spoke louder than words. Whispers filled the clinic. Some were curious, some cruel, and eventually the noise reached Miho's family. His father, a powerful businessman, summoned him one evening. "You cannot be serious," his father said coldly. "This girl is not from our world. She has no wealth, no name, no bloodline. End it now, Miho, before you destroy your reputation." Miho listened in silence. Once he would have obeyed. Once he cared only about power and perfection. But now he knew better. "Father," he said quietly, "I've rejected every woman who ever tried to stand by me. But Maria is different. She's the one who makes me want to live, not just work. I will not leave her." His father's face darkened. "Then you are no longer my son." Miho's chest ached, but his decision was clear. "Then so be it." When Maria heard, she cried. "You gave up everything for me," she whispered, her hands shaking. "I can't let you do this." Miho cupped her face gently, his cold hands warm against her skin. "I didn't give up anything. I gained everything. For years, I healed others, but I never healed myself. You did that, Maria. You're my choice. Always." Her tears turned into soft laughter as she pressed her forehead against his chest. For the first time in years, he held someone not out of duty, but out of love. Weeks later, the snow fell again in Seoul. The streets glowed under the lights. Maria walked beside Miho, their hands entwined. People stared, some with admiration, some with disapproval, but neither of them cared. In that moment, it was just the two of them. Miho stopped suddenly, turning to face her. Snowflakes clung to his dark hair, his sharp features softened by the winter glow. "Maria," he said softly, "I once thought love was weakness. But you showed me it's the greatest strength. You are my heart, my home, my forever." Maria's eyes shone with tears as she smiled. "And you are mine." He pulled her into his arms, holding her as the snow fell around them. The man who once rejected all had finally chosen. And in the snowy streets of Seoul, love won. Spring came to Seoul, and with it, warmth returned to the city. Flowers bloomed along the streets, and the snow that once marked the beginning of their love melted into memory. One afternoon, as Maria and Miho walked out of the clinic together, a black car pulled up. The door opened, and his father stepped out. Maria froze, her heart pounding. Miho instinctively held her hand tighter. "Father," Miho said stiffly. The older man's face, usually hard as stone, looked weary. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then he sighed deeply. "I was wrong," he said, his voice low but steady. "I thought love would weaken you. I thought she would bring you down. But I see now, she lifted you higher than I ever could." Maria's eyes widened. She had never expected to hear such words. His father stepped closer, his gaze shifting to her. "Maria," he said softly, almost hesitantly, "I judged you unfairly. For your skin, for your past, for things that should never have mattered. And yet, you've given my son what all my money and power could not piece. For that, I am sorry." Tears stung Maria's eyes. She bowed deeply, her voice trembling. "Sir, your acceptance means more than you know. Thank you." Miho's father nodded, his own eyes misty. He looked at his son. "Take care of her. Love her well. And forgive an old man who took too long to understand." For the first time in years, Miho stepped forward and embraced his father. It was brief, but powerful, the closing of an old wound. As they pulled back, Miho turned to Maria and laced his fingers through hers. His father gave a small smile and returned to his car, leaving behind a blessing unspoken, but deeply felt. Maria leaned her head against Miho's shoulder as they walked home. Love had not only broken through Miho's walls, it had healed his family too. And this time, there were no more rejections. Only acceptance. Only love. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more amazing stories.